Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Mansur Hasib, and we are here with one more episode of Conversations with Dr. Cybersecurity, where I bring in people from all over the world and we learn a little bit about them, and then they ask questions and we talk about the topics. That's the beauty of this program. I don't know what we're going to talk about most of the time. First, I have an award-winning journalist and editor, Alison Diana. Alison, would you please introduce yourself and then let's go into our conversation with you.
Great. Well, thank you, Mansur, for inviting me. As you say, I'm Alison Diana. I've been in the B2B publishing industry for a long time, longer than I will ever admit to, writing about technology, the indirect channel, and most recently telecommunications, primarily broadband. And so B2B is, as many of you know, and you know for sure, Mansur, because that's how we met, is avoiding the consumer, so business to business. And I've written about pretty much every aspect of it, from the very, very in-depth techno, geeky speak areas, and translating that into the C-level corporate speak, and the indirect resellers, service providers, systems integrators, and then also into specific vertical markets such as healthcare. And I was trying to recall exactly how we met, but I think I had contacted you regarding being one of my health IT experts for a community site I was running at the time.
Where Mary Jander was also there. It was tech something, and then later on you went to enterprise tech, I believe.
I think, Information Week, or one of those. There have been a lot.
Right.
Because, yeah,
so what are those things at the back? Are those some of your awards and all that?
No, these are actually my husband's fishing trophies.
Oh, okay.
I have a very big trophy for catching the largest marlin, white marlin. It was tag and release, but that's in the other room. It was the room with the bar and the pool table, which is a much cooler room to video conference in, but we have a house full of people because of COVID-19, so I didn't think it would be very good for the conversation. I can't have everyone be quiet for me when I can't close the door.
Right. So what topics and questions are you interested in talking about today, Alison? It's wonderful to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Well, I thought because of our common grounds were publishing and cybersecurity, I thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about how publishing has changed in the years we've known each other. And one thing you always said to me, and I've kicked myself repeatedly, is you've got to build your own brand, Alison. As we've seen the publishing industry consolidate, and I've spoken to you after a couple of layoffs and so forth, and so that was something I thought that might be interesting to discuss, because we're definitely seeing larger players and fewer in some ways.
Yes, I mean, technology is really disrupting everything. And unfortunately, too many of the people that used to live in the old world aren't transitioning, and therefore you're seeing them basically go out of business, because what they were doing is what they used to do in print.
Right.
They have now tried to do it in online format. But that doesn't work because they're using the old tried formula where they're trying to get free authors, where they're not going to pay the authors, but they want to make the money. And I'm not exactly sure how they want to make the money, because nowadays they're not going to get paid subscribers. Maybe in the past they used to get, but today it's all about eyes and advertising. You, as Alison Diana, could build your own publishing outfit. You don't really need high-priced outfits to do these kinds of things. I'm doing this all by myself, right? And we're gaining an audience. So there's nothing to prevent anybody. Technology has empowered everybody. So we need to start thinking completely differently.
Exactly. And I think you see that more and more people are doing so. And the challenge then is the noise factor, right? And being found and making yourself heard. You know, in your case, you already have a gravitas. You know, people know who you are. You have an industry standing, which is, you know, so that's great. And I think people need to do that. They need to leverage their you know, what they're expert in, and most people are expert in something. And it can be a very teeny niche, and that's what's so exciting about the internet. People, like my daughter is fascinated by Frederick the Great. I have no idea why.
Okay.
I'm English, my husband is Italian, she comes up with some old Prussian guy anyway. But she is so fascinated by this because he was apparently very benevolent for you know, an emperor at the time. Anyway, but there are other people who are also you know, fascinated with this man. And so, you know, she's apparently found some of them who are not, you know, fascists or anything, but they're just really interested in his ruling and his kingdom. And you know, where else could you do that but the internet? You know, and you know, other really very strange and unusual interests. And so you know, if you can be you know everything about this pen, and you will find a whole world of people who are also interested in that pen, and boom, you know, there's your little expert community, which is really cool, I think.
Great. So any other topics that you're interested in?
Well, I think that's one thing that a lot of small businesses don't get, and I wish that they would. When I'm freelancing right now and working on something like a passion project that you know, it's really early stages, but and I think a lot of times I've seen small businesses not leverage their own expertise enough. As you say, I don't think anyone should write for free. I mean, I went to 4 years of college to get that journalism degree. I don't want someone writing, you know, without some kind of remuneration for it. But you certainly share your opinion, be a source to different publications or online shows. You know, be a guest for you, Mansur, or someone who's speaking on a topic that you know. You know, share your expertise to some degree or as you're doing, you know, have your own blog on your own website.
Right. But for you, for example, one of the things that you could conceivably do is you have this editing background, you have this journalistic background. What is to prevent you from starting your own journal where you collect the people, but you do it the right way, where they still have the contribution authority and things like that? I mean, look at what LinkedIn is doing. You could do it in a niche area or even, and then get advertisements. You see, advertisers could potentially sponsor articles, sponsor your things. I mean, at some point, I will probably be looking for sponsors for my shows as the, what do you call that? The viewership starts to grow.
Sure. Well, I think that's one of the things I want to do, because I know Steve Saunders, who started light reading and dark reading and heavy reading and so on and so on. He tried, or he did the community approach to journalism, and whether you say it failed or succeeded, you know, I'll leave that up for debate. But I've got my own take on it, and there are several community kind of approaches that I want to do. One of them is Win Like a Girl. It's, my daughter played baseball, and she was very good. She was a pitcher, and she was one of the top batters in our town. She was on the all-star team, but she was treated awfully because she was a girl and she played baseball. And it got to the point that she was physically threatened with horrible things, awful things. And she was 10, 11, having parents yelling stuff like, throw the ball at her head, and boys saying what they would do to her. So, you know, I was really terrified. And Frank, my husband, and I spoke to the different local baseball authorities, spoke to the Williamsport, and nothing really happened. Well, nothing happened. There was no really. And so I looked for different supportive groups online, thinking maybe there are other girls facing the same situation. But there was nothing there. Now, there were legal recourses, but we didn't want to do that. This was more for her. And so this is something, but it's broader than baseball. Then there's also cystic fibrosis. There are plenty of cystic fibrosis. She has cystic fibrosis. There are plenty of CF organizations, but nothing that we've found from the exact perspective of the patient, for a patient, by a patient, without any doctors or clinicians or pharmaceutical company involvement. And then there are other ones I've seen. So, and again, kind of going to that niche group. And obviously I have to support myself with this, but I think if I create enough niche ones, there's a point where the company or the charitable group or whatever, however I structured it, and I do know where I'm going with that. It would become self-sustaining in and
What
of it.
about getting into the publishing business? Have you thought about publishing in that niche area, stories, articles
Yes.
that would actually be sold? So
Yes.
publishing is very big. You could do that.
Yeah.
Pieces, and you could actually get contributions, or write it yourself and then publish and make money from that. That is usually a pretty good income stream.
Yes, there would be.
Would also help build a brand.
Exactly. Yeah, there would be publishing, aggregation, and some other ways.
The other thing you could do, because you are an expert editor in the space of technology, there are plenty of CIOs and CISOs and all kinds of people who might be willing to write their stories and things like that. You could be a ghostwriter, you could be an editor. So those are all big projects that you could do. Many of them don't know how to publish, don't know how to put things together. You could be that particular glue. You would be serving them and also building a brand and a business for yourself. There are people doing that.
Oh, in fact, I was talking to a book publisher the other day about ghostwriting and ghost editing. I'm not ghost editing, but an editing and so forth. So there is a lot of interest, and I think more people want to write their own stories. I think partly the whole interest in ancestry, and I think that sparked the whole, I want to tell my story for, generations to come, which is kind of cool.
Right.
Yeah, and people.
We have about 3 more minutes. Anything else that you want to talk about that is kind of really something that we want to talk about?
I was wondering how you're building your brand, DrCybersecurity. What has worked best for you, would you say? And have you learned any lessons like, oh gosh, I would never do that again? If there's something you would share on that, Mansur.
Absolutely. Well, you've seen my brand grow.
I have.
You have been part of my journey. You see, so building a brand is a journey.
Yes.
It is a matter of experimentation and continuous. So it's like marketing anything. No matter what you market, there has to be constant messaging and repetition of the message over time. So you may notice that my key message, which is that people and leadership are important, that key message has not changed. From the very first writings that you saw, it hasn't changed. But what has changed is the way I'm discussing it with the people that I'm discussing it. And then the other important thing about building a brand is you can never build a brand by yourself, right? You have to surround yourself with other people who themselves have big brands, and you co-support each other. Because as they write and as they do things, you click like and share. And so when you do something, they will click like and share, because that's what social media is all about. That network is a powerful network. So why am I even doing this? Well, every one of these episodes are promoting not just the people who are here, but it's also promoting me, right?
Yeah.
But at a big level, it's also promoting the very people who are coming here, because you have 15 minutes of devoted time and a video segment that's going to live on the YouTube for a long, long time.
Exactly.
And you also get to network with some of the people that come to these events. And as you can see, we have some regulars over here today. I see Dutch, I see Liz, and I mean, it's incredible. So this movement is growing, and that is how it has happened. My brand has grown because of the people around me that have embraced me, and I've embraced them, because it's a two-way street, right? I have to embrace them just as much as they have to embrace me, because otherwise the brand can never be built.
Exactly. And I like how you've evolved it, because I remember, yeah, as you said, it was all about leadership. And I always loved what you said about leadership and being truthful and open and transparency and so forth. And then, as you say, it's evolved as you've evolved. I mean, we all hopefully do.
Right. And you've seen me change from various places. I mean, both of us have, since we started, both of us have probably been laid off 2-3 times. But our basic message and our basic persona has never changed, right? Because that will never change. Who we are never changes.
Exactly.
But how we do it can change.
Well,
yes. Alison, it was absolutely amazing to see you. And likewise. Now you will meet another one of my superstar friends. As I was telling you, you have to surround yourself with people. So I'm going to bring in Mike Echols, who used to be with the Obama administration. And during that time, he created this whole concept of the information sharing and analysis organization, and basically blew my mind. And I said, wow, for small businesses, what a great concept. So Mike, why don't you come in, introduce yourself, and let's chat.
How you doing today, sir?
Wonderful.
Always good to see you.
Always good to see you.
Yeah, so, you know, I spent several years at the Department of Homeland Security, but prior to focusing on cybersecurity, I helped build a national infrastructure protection plan. And that was very interesting because it came on the heels of 9/11. And so the idea was that you had government council made up of government agencies and departments that had a requirement for that critical sector. For instance, at the time, there was a sector called postal and shipping. So on the commercial side, DHL, FedEx, and Postal Service was on the government side. And so they could all coordinate and they could reduce risk in a sector, right? And so then information security kind of evolved into cybersecurity.
Right.
And they were kind of two separate things.
Right.
And now over time, the critical sectors and the digitization of America or the world and cybersecurity have come together.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I spend most of my time, now that I'm out of government, at the end of 2016, I left the Department of Homeland Security, and I left to mature cybersecurity.
Yeah.
That's $1 trillion industry. What are you talking about, Mike? Who are you?
So tell us about what you're doing, because you're doing some amazing things now.
Yeah, so I have a for-profit company, and we're a government contractor, but we have a nonprofit at Kennedy Space Center, and we help build cyber threat information sharing organizations. And that comes out of the idea that going back 15 years ago, I was leading groups in the government with the biggest companies where the cybersecurity experts would come together and they would share cyber threat information with each other, competitors. Others, Lockheed Martin, AT&T, Sprint, but they were only the biggest companies, right? And so this idea that that process worked was clear because they kept coming back. They paid their own money to come back, right? So they were getting some value. So why didn't the rest of the country, the other parts of the 300 and some millions of us
Right.
The small business, 26 million small businesses among us. Why aren't they participating in the same type of thing, right? For cyber
Right.
intelligence.
That was what attracted me to you, because when you first spoke about the small business problem, I immediately wrote an article about what you said in that piece, in that presentation where I first met you.
So I wrote a book recently, Secure Cyber Life, the government is not coming to save you.
Oh yeah, that's true.
It comes out of this whole concept that you're quoting
Congratulations on
here
that.
about leadership. And the concept here is that there is a role of government. People don't understand that though. They think it's almost like public health, where, you know, it's more personalized to you than your local community. That there's no great firewall. There's no great things the government's doing. They're not even passing the laws that they need to pass to protect you.
Right.
As I say in the book, I believe sort of my conspiracy theories are just, it's kind of a human nature capitalism thing where the people that fund the politicians are the biggest companies who would be hurt by certain rules because they use techniques, the biggest companies, they use the same techniques hackers use. Right? So we could reduce the risk individuals digitally, but you would also hinder some of the largest companies that exist. So it's an interesting thing that's going on in this country and actually across the world. And so all I wanted people to do was to understand that you have to start protecting and taking care of your own digital life.
Yeah. Very, very fascinating point. Very, very fascinating point. So what other topics do you want to discuss today?
Well, that's basically it, because that encompasses so many things. This idea that we first of all, the system allows companies and people to do things to us. But then at the same time, we, through convenience of using apps and other things, we allow people to do things to us, right? And so with that being the case, I just wanted to get your take on that, because you've seen it all. You've seen the same development that I have. And typically, like when I was in the government, there's talking points. There's things you can't say. And that's what I love about being on my own now. I can say whatever I want to say. And then if you work for a major corporation, they don't want to make anybody mad. They don't want to get regulated. They don't want, so you really are kind of stuck also. So that freedom doesn't exist for a lot of the experts to say what they really need to say.
Right. Well, actually, so funny thing that you even mentioned this particular issue, because even when I was talking to Alison, here is an opportunity actually for people like Alison to help small businesses, and perhaps the small businesses would be willing to pay a fee, because somebody needs to tell their stories. There's a marketing challenge. Some of the small businesses have a marketing challenge, right? So, and they often don't know how to get their voice heard. So journalism to me isn't all about just writing about topics, but it's also exposing companies and helping them go through that noise, because we talked about that whole noise, and the same issue with some of the things that I've been talking about with my students and graduates, where I tell them that this area that you pointed out, Mike, is such a big business opportunity, where all these businesses, small businesses, they need the cybersecurity, they need the digital strategy, not just to protect the information, but also how to use that technology to power their business forward. Because technology isn't about just protecting. I also have to make sure that I can make money by doing that. And that is something that most of these small businesses don't know how to do. And so therefore now they're falling victim to these ransomware attacks and all these things. Well, who's going to help them? I sincerely believe that some of my graduates, some of these students, even when they're students, they could be doing this.
And there's so many gaps. So for instance, one of the projects that I'm doing right now is to build the cyber requirements for autonomous vehicle system that's being developed for a mass transit organization. And so as we started to do that, and they started to look at the new build of this system that is going to have these public transportation, autonomous vehicles, you start to realize that no one has ever actually thought about, okay, so how do we start to secure a system before it's built? I mean, even when you start to put the equipment into the equipment rooms, the construction workers don't think about locking doors.
Right.
How do you then test that equipment to make sure that it is as it was when it was delivered? There's so many little pieces here. And as we start to transform so many of these businesses and so many of this critical infrastructure, we're going to find out that there's holes everywhere.
Yeah.
NIST may give you guidance, but it doesn't tell you how to apply it in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I think that maybe there's an opportunity for people to go to the associations. Aren't there lots of associations? I mean, maybe the grocery chains have associations. I don't know. Are there small, what do you call, pharmaceutical associations and things like that? Things that are smaller, or maybe the local governments or police or firefighters and various smaller organizations that normally wouldn't be able to do anything on their own, but perhaps as a information sharing and analysis organization, the concept that you came up with, where anybody can participate, right? Somebody just have to organize them. Because part of the problem is that sometimes they don't have an association and they need to be organized. But the problem is who's going to organize them. And this is why sometimes I have told my students and graduates that you could organize them around your own community, just like you have a neighborhood watch, right? Who organizes a neighborhood watch? The neighbors themselves. Well, could you perhaps start going to some of the small businesses around where you live and talk to them and see if they would be willing to pay a small fee for your services, but pooled together, that's a big fee for you, right?
And value is what you get out of something, right?
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need to be paid if you're getting a value. And what I've seen with a lot of the students is that, you know, they talk about a cybersecurity shortage, right, of professionals.
Yeah.
And I see all of these jobs available, but you got all of these students who seem to not be able to find the jobs. And what we deduced is that all of those jobs are looking for people with experience. You can go and find one of these organizations and volunteer like an internship and get experience. It's worth more than that $10 or $15 an hour.
That's true. That's another way. Yeah, that is absolutely brilliant. A group of students could potentially do that. They could even offer vulnerability assessment as a service.
Right. Absolutely.
And then they can put it on their resume. Oh, I did it for 20 businesses or 30 businesses, and I've got all these references, right?
That's right.
Love it. Brilliant idea. Yeah. So what about the certifications? You were doing certifications, international and all that area. How is that one going? I thought that was...
So it's really interesting when I talk about maturing cybersecurity. For as mature as some areas are, it is immature in a lot of other areas. And for as many businesses that are awoke, there are so many that don't understand or see the value of doing certain things, right? Like being certified, like having that accreditation related to their digital systems. And one of the things that's changing with that is now DoD is requiring, and that's usually where things start to take hold. But that just came about in the last year, where DoD is going to require contractors to be certified at certain levels, right? And previously it was the self-certification, but now there's going to be certification and accreditation. And so we'll now take those types of requirements and use those to help people get what they need to go. But it's interesting. You travel around the country and it's digitally and from a cybersecurity perspective, people are in so many different places. So many different places. And again, back to my original statement, it's just amazing what people think the government is doing or what the role of the government is.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that point because nobody should be waiting for anybody to do it. We can all, this is why I have become so passionate about educating people. And I keep telling even my students that what you learn, you could start teaching others. And that is how you will learn even more, and your message and your brand will continue to grow. Write about it. If you researched a breach, write a blog about it. Right? Because there's a lot to learn from, say, somebody sharing the information. Say, what happened with the Facebook breach, or what happened with the MedStar breach, or what happened with the Anthem breach? A lot of people still don't know.
Right. And so that's the interesting part is when we talked about earlier, when I was at Homeland Security, all the biggest companies, when their cybersecurity experts come together, they get all that information.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, are the other businesses not as important?
No.
And so the kind of the last thing that I wanted to just throw at you was the similarities here to sort of this pretext that I developed about the taking care of yourself. Now, if you look at what's going on with COVID-19, oh my God, is my point being made? Yes. Can you imagine if instead of this being biological, that this was a digital system issue, right? Who's going to come clean your system? Who's going to test your system?
Correct.
How are you going to communicate? You see, there's so much there.
Yes.
It's the same issue, just in a different form.
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, this is the other thing that I also see this particular one as another big business opportunity. Right now, I believe that many of the young cybersecurity professionals who are necessarily looking for jobs could actually go out there and save some businesses from failing because they don't have a digital strategy. They don't have a disaster recovery or business continuity strategy. They are basically stuck because their entire business was based upon this foot traffic. Right? But no business today should be based upon just foot traffic. This is why I went into online education and was evangelizing online education for quite some time. And I urged many universities, I'm like, why are you sourcing yourself on one source of revenue? Right? We all have to diversify. Yes, of course, we need the on-ground education. Nobody's going to deny that argument. But why should all my revenue come from that one single pot?
That's right.
Right? Because the opportunity in the other pot is huge. So that is wonderful. That is wonderful. So this is fantastic catching up with you, Mike. I am now going to bring in my student, Allie White. Allie, are you here? If so, unmute yourself and introduce yourself. So she is my student in the Bachelor of Science in Cybersecurity and Digital Forensics program at Stevenson University. Allie, why don't you introduce yourself? This is such a fantastic opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Hasib. As you said, my name is Allie White, and I'm a Cybersecurity and Digital Forensics major at Stevenson. I started Stevenson as a freshman, and I chose the school just because of how friendly the atmosphere was and all the programs they had academically. And then I have gained so many experiences and great memories there, and I'm excited to see what I have for the last year as a senior. And I really like Stevenson because of the professors like Dr. Hasib. They're always there for you as a student, and they're always ready to like make sure you have all your work done. So as a freshman, I began my job as a student assistant at Tech Connection. It's basically our help desk at school. I gained a lot of knowledge in basic technology and customer support, and it allowed me to save up to pay for school. And I'm continuing to save up and pay for school because we have a family tradition where the student pays for their own schooling, which, yeah, it's pretty humbling because then I take more pride in my education and what I learn. I've made a bunch of friends at Tech Connection and Stevenson and other activities outside of my major. So I'm also in the marching band. And yeah, I've been in the marching band since freshman year of high school. I play clarinet, and I'll be the drum major this season, so that's pretty exciting. And at the end of sophomore year, a few of my major friends and work friends decided to create the Ethical Hacking Club. We focus on CTF basics, and we're preparing our club to compete in the future. I'm the secretary right now, so I'm part of the leadership, and it's pretty fun just because we all put our perspectives in with our different, our varying experiences with CTF. Yeah, and then this past year, I had the opportunity to become an ambassador for the Stevenson community.
Oh, right. Wow, yeah.
I participated in a panel for Accepted Students Day and an open house, and I shared my story with the prospective students. This is a great way to provide advice to those looking to come to Stevenson. And in the future, I plan to become an educator, whether that's a college professor or a career-focused teacher in high school. I'm not sure yet, but that's my long-term goal.
Wow, I actually watched you in that panel. I thought you were awesome. And the fact that someone like you is going to be an educator is even more wonderful. It actually validates my whole reason for coming to education. So what did you want to talk about, Allie? This is absolutely wonderful.
I just had a few questions about like teaching and mentoring.
Okay.
So the first one that I have is in your class, in your 281 class, I really enjoyed writing the 2 papers and then reading everybody else's papers. Why do you think this was so successful in teaching, and what are some tips to helping students reach their full potential?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. So I'm glad that you enjoyed the 2 papers. I know it was probably hard for you to write those things, right? Well, as you notice, one of the things that I've always stressed on is not just knowledge itself, it's your ability to apply what you learn to research a particular problem. So if you notice in the very first paper, what I did was I made you research an actual breach. And I also made each of you research a different breach, right? Because I wanted you to learn from each other. So we had what, 27, 28 students in the class, and each of you did a different breach. So by reading each other's papers, what did you learn? Not just about the one breach that you researched, you learned about all those breaches. Then in the second paper, in the first paper, what you did was you discovered what happened, why it happened, and what were the damages, right? But if you notice in the second paper, that is when you got to apply your entire learning, not only in this class, but all the other classes that you have taken. You now put all of that knowledge into saying, okay, what was the root cause analysis here? Because I made you do the root cause analysis, right? I mean, that was a methodology, because you don't ever give recommendations without doing a root cause analysis. You go deeper. Why did this happen? Why did that happen? Why did that happen? And then when you make your recommendations, they will be specific to the root causes that you found, right? And in some cases, you had to make assumptions, which was okay. I don't care about which root causes you found. I wanted you to learn the methodology. Now notice that what I taught you really is in no book, nothing, right? Because all that knowledge in the books and all that had to be applied to this project, right? And so once you finish that, you notice, because I actually saw even in your own writing, the way you were talking, you had basically synthesized not only the knowledge that I gave you in this class, but all the other classes you've taken, all the things that you had read from your peers, and that was why. So I thought that is a nice way to learn, because you need to learn from each other, because you need to know how each of you are also experts in your own rights. You're developing experts, right? So that was the big reason I did that. So you like that? That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
If someone wanted to teach in the cybersecurity field, what qualifications would you recommend for them to have, both experience and degree-wise?
Well, so as you also saw over there, another great question. You saw in the way I explained to you the cybersecurity model, the people side, the policy side, the technology side. And then you have to have this diverse range of things. So to build a complete program, you also need faculty members of a variety of disciplines, right? For your cyber law class, for example, I would prefer to have a lawyer teach that class, or a policy person, or something like that. Or say your ethical hacking class, I would really want somebody who's an expert in that. The leadership class, the kind of the class that you took with me, the 281, where it's a strategy. You would want a real strategist person who has actually done this in real life to be teaching you that. So I think that a good combination of that is also important, but you also need people who understand the literature, who have done some studies. So it's just not about teaching you technology, it's also teaching you the critical thinking, the analysis, that part. So I think that, and I think that to be a successful teacher, you have to, first of all, be passionate about it, right? You have to enjoy it. You have to love seeing your students take whatever it is that you're giving them and then executing and shining, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think that's what it takes.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, what do you think is the importance of public speaking in a cybersecurity-based career?
Public speaking. So absolutely. So one of in my own career, the most important thing that helped me was my ability to speak. I was actually in the debating team from 8th grade, in the high school debating team. And I kept that thing. And one of my favorites was extemporaneous speeches, where there's no preparation. You just pick up a topic from the hat and just talk. Well, the beautiful thing about that is your brain gets trained into talking instantaneously on something and talking in an intelligent, succinct manner. Because your communications also has to be very succinct and solid, and it has to be valuable communications. Something that will make an executive accept your ideas. So yeah, communication was the most important thing. See, I had a background in economics and political science, which you may or may not remember if I told you that.
Yeah.
But because at that time, nobody was teaching cybersecurity in any school, college, anywhere in the world. So I used those skills and then said, okay, this is the strategy we're going to do. And I had to sell that strategy. I had to explain that strategy, win over the people who had the money and the budgets to that strategy, that it would make sense. But then I also had to give them service level agreements. So as a matter of fact, my first service level agreement was done in 1991. Would you believe that? It was a written agreement where I told the plant, the nuclear power plant, how soon I was going to fix any problem. Now, why would they give a 30-some-year-old guy all that responsibility if I didn't have the communication skills, the public speaking skills to say this, and also the political skills to develop that service level agreement, which was essentially a contract. It was a bond, right? But once I did that, and then I also had to bring them together, because most of it was not just the technology itself. Most of it was teaching others how to use it, because my technology is useless unless people can use it, right?
Yeah.
So that is what public speaking is very important. I would encourage you to definitely do public speaking, and you saw that I made you do some public speaking in class also.
Yeah. Yes. What do you enjoy most about teaching, and what do you wish you could change?
The most thing I enjoy teaching, to tell you honestly, is seeing my students like you shine. So to tell you honestly, you saw that I put out that word out. Hey, I need volunteers to go speak at this panel, right? And out of 50 students, what? Only 2 responded, okay? But that's okay. But those 2 put up such an amazing show. You were one of them, right? Courtney was the other.
Mm-hmm.
And it just warmed my heart to see that, because I don't know you for very long, right? Only 4 or 5 months, right?
Yeah.
And to see even in that period that you took that opportunity and you then executed, it was just amazing. And so professor gets a lot of non-monetary rewards. And for me, that is huge because I cannot buy that with money, right? When you succeed and you tell me that you succeeded, there's nothing more valuable to me than that.
Yeah.
So that's what's more important. Now, what did you think about the presentations?
They were good. It was fun to learn about the all the breaches and not have to read about them as well. So I got like 20 extra breaches that I didn't have to read about.
Good.
Yeah.
Right. What else, Allie? We have about 4 more minutes.
You mentioned that you were trying to bring a doctoral program to Stevenson. Why is it going to be so different from the other ones?
Oh yes, the doctoral program. That is something of a dream for me. I mean, this doctoral program has been ready to go since 2015. Why? Well, if you look at most traditional doctoral programs, and I'm sure you have examined some of them, I went through one of them. There's no guarantee that you'll ever get a doctoral degree. You can go 7 years, 10 years, it just goes on and on. You take a whole bunch of courses, you then take a comprehensive exam, and oh, by the way, the dissertation stage, you're left on your own.
Yeah.
That's not the way to run a doctoral program today. Okay? In the early days, that used to work because most of the time you had a full-time graduate student. Today, that is not really possible or realistic. There are more working professionals that want to get a doctoral degree today that is required. The second thing is that in those days, we only needed the doctoral degree to be a professor. But today we need a doctoral degree to do research also, because every company has all these gobs and gobs of data that they're collecting. Healthcare data, I mean, you name it, breach data, log data, whatever data. And what you need are research scientists to create new knowledge from this data, whether you call it artificial intelligence or whatever you call it, they have to support decision-making, right? Who's going to do that? It's the new data scientists, research scientists. So much more than academia now needs these kinds of people. You see? So my doctoral program, the way it would be different is that the very first semester, when you join, you will already have a general idea of the area that you're interested in, and then we will help you develop the very narrow research question that you're going to examine. In other words, we will set you up for success from day one, not leave you at the end. So the dissertation would be built into the program, and within 3 years, you would finish. If you already come from, say, another university where you never finished, you just have your dissertation left, I could get you done in 2 years, because it doesn't take any more than 2 years to get a dissertation done.
Yeah.
So you see, that is what we would do it, and it would be applied. It would be real world issues. Another thing that I've never enjoyed are all these PhDs, they research nebulous issues. Their paper is probably read by 2 people in the entire world. That is useless research to me.
Yeah.
There are plenty of companies that actually will pay us to do some doctoral research. They cannot hire a PhD person or a PhD person to supervise that kind of research. We could do that, you see? And our graduate students would, then we need all these educators. Who's teaching cybersecurity today? Right? We need the people with a Doctor of Science in Cybersecurity and Digital Forensics to be teaching in those kinds of programs. I really don't want universities to be running cybersecurity programs where the head of the program has a PhD in English.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
Right?
Right.
So these are the problems that I need to fix. And now once we do this, the price would be lower because we'll be doing it online. You would not be required to give up your job. So you could continue doing a full-time job and then pace yourself and finish the doctoral degree. And maybe your job might even pay for it. So these are the various reasons that will be good. But fantastic talking with you, Allie. It was amazing that you came on the program and wonderful. It was great to have you in my class. And now I am going to bring in a mentee of mine, Aisha Berry.
Okay, hi, my name is Aisha Berry. I was recently married and I moved from Pennsylvania to Oklahoma due to my husband's job. And currently I'm a nurse. I've been in healthcare for a total of 20 years. I used to be a nursing assistant as well.
Okay.
And now I'm a graduate student at University of Maryland Global Campus.
Okay.
I'm majoring in digital forensics and cyber investigations. My goal is to combine healthcare with cybersecurity. There is a great need for cybersecurity in healthcare from a nurse's or a healthcare worker's perspective. The cyber hygiene in healthcare is terrible. The passwords are blatantly out on a nurse's station. It's from a convenience perspective, but not realizing that someone can just look over your shoulder and say, oh, there's a password, and they can just get into the system and gain all types of information. So things of that nature, I would like to consult healthcare facilities on. Also, bringing in their own laptops to access patient data is a big no-no. I've seen it where facilities don't have enough money to buy the hardware, the laptops. They use their personal cell phones a lot to use for work purposes, even though they stipulate, oh, you're not supposed to use your personal devices to gain access to patient information. So I find that very comical to me because you get in trouble for that. You're not supposed to do that. It's just, you're leaving the facility wide open when you use your own personal devices. So more education is needed in that area. And just using a lot of the third-party IT teams, they really don't have an understanding. I just wish that more cybersecurity could go around and just check on and say, how are you doing? They should be more involved in in-services, even though we have our own in-services in healthcare, but they should implement more in-services in cybersecurity in healthcare and have more leadership in that area. So my goal is just to consult. I would like to have my own consulting firm and just start, I would start by myself, but I would like to see it grow, just to teach, because my passion is teaching. I really do love to teach. I was a teacher at the Harrisburg Area Community College. I taught a nursing assistant course. So it's just that I have a knack for bringing in, I just have a unique way of merging ideas together so the students can understand, because some people are not like they don't have that book sense, but if you talk in the language that they can understand, it's like, oh, okay, now I get it. Or, just use certain scenarios and compare them and, just so they can get a better idea.
Wonderful.
So that's my goal.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So what are you doing to get there, and what kinds of questions or topics do you want to discuss today?
So now that I'm coming close to the end of the school year, I will have more time. So I feel like now I need to reinvent myself to get myself back into the arena and just try to market myself, because I see there's a great need for it. I talk to a lot of nurses, I talk to a lot of CNAs, and they say, oh, I didn't know that. For example, they're constantly plugging their phone into the laptop, and I said, what are you doing? You can't. You're not supposed to do that. You don't understand what could happen when you plug the phone into the laptop. So they just do it for charging purposes, but it can cause so much damage. So basically, I just want to start marketing myself, and how would I go about, even though I see the issues, but I just want to know, like, who would I go to talk to at a facility? Like, how would I just present my ideas to the facilities?
Well, there are several ways. I mean, number one, notice what I'm doing, this kind of a forum. Anybody could do this, right? You could have webinars inviting your sphere of influence, potentially from healthcare organizations, maybe individuals, maybe companies, to come and listen to you, right? Sometimes you are waiting for a conference to happen, right? I noticed that you spoke at a conference. Well, you were waiting for that conference to happen, which is good. But now you have that message and you have that talk. Well, could you invite people to come to your talk? You could do the webinar. Right now, you could
Okay.
have registrations and Eventbrite and stuff like that. And if it's free, people will come because you're giving valuable information. And that's how you would start building the brand and building your name, right? So, and it will happen over time. You have to do it constantly. Notice that this particular thing that I'm doing it every week. Because if I do this once a month, that's not going to have as much traction. If I do it once a year, even less traction, right?
Right.
So this is, I mean, you have to think about the idea. The modern world is all about content marketing. So remember that term. It's content marketing. You're never selling. I don't ever sell anything. What I'm doing is sharing knowledge, which is content, knowledge, marketing. But marketing happens because I just happen to be associated with it, right? There's a whole bunch of other services that I have that are paid services, right? But at the time that I'm doing the real marketing, it should never be selling. It should be content, giving people valuable knowledge for which they will come and they will surround you with their community.
Okay.
So your passion is that issues in healthcare and all that you've noticed. Well, you start writing about it, start talking about it, building a brand around that. If that is your passion, then that's what you want to fix.
Right, and I'm still working on my book about cybersecurity and healthcare.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to have that done by the end of this year.
There's another thing. Yeah.
And
you were also
I wanted to do say that again?
You also had an app or a
What did you
software
say?
building, weren't you?
Yes, I do have an app on Google Play Store, which is called Guys. Guys is an encryption app. So basically you could message, it's a messenger app, and you can send pictures, documents to that one person. But prior to sending the picture or the document, you apply a filter. The person will receive the photo or document with the filter on it. In order for it to be revealed, you have to tap it, and then it'll be revealed. Also, you cannot record. You know, they have these recording apps where, you know, they can follow your every move on your phone. You're not able to record at all. It's basically to that one person, and then that's that. You can't share it. You can't screenshot the photo or the document.
There you go. So
it's on Google Play Store.
are you marketing that? So that's another thing, right? You actually have that, and from time to time you need to be posting about the information about it. It shouldn't be just 100% marketing, but talk about the features, talk about the benefits, and then share, as again, content around it.
Okay. Because I'm in a process of making it more user-friendly. I did get some feedback. The concept is great. It's just that I found that most of the users were having some difficulty using the app. So what I learned from this whole process is that I could have designed my UI screens from the beginning. So this time I designed my own UI screens for the revision of Guys, and which is more user friendly.
Okay. Do you have YouTube videos teaching people about that app, how to use that app properly?
So, right. So I can't even, and that's where I was going to go, use YouTube for that purpose.
Okay.
But I can't even record the usage. That's how encrypted it is. I can't even record it unless I have another phone or a video camera.
Okay.
But try to just use it directly myself and then upload it. I'm not able to because guys' features will not allow that.
Okay. But you could still record yourself talking about it and talking about the features and things like that, and make a nice professional video for that purpose. Make it 1 to 2 minutes long and just have it out there. Again, a lot of these things would be very useful. A lot of content is better. So 100 1-minute shots or videos are better than 1 hour-long video.
Right. Okay.
Talk about various things. You will often see Mike Echols. Mike Echols is actually a good example. He used to, I don't know if he still does it or not, but he used to do this cybersecurity minute. I thought it was very cool. I mean, we would see him, he would talk, and it was wonderful. But it needs to be done daily. It needs to be done weekly. It needs to be done all the time.
Okay.
And your website or wherever you post has to have constant changing information. Otherwise, why would people keep coming back?
Right.
My website right now is a vibrant place. There's a daily newspaper there. There are article feeds, RSS feeds that I've collected, and now all these videos are going there every week. So there's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of changing content in there. And so people are coming back. And every time that you do your webinar or whatever you're going to do, make sure that they don't go to Eventbrite to sign up. You make them come to your website, and from your website, you take them to Eventbrite.
Okay.
You see? So make your website or whatever your website is going to be the central place. The other thing to make your website more popular is what is called cross connections. So you will see that on my website, there is a page called Media. And on that page, I have actually linked every place that one of my articles have been mentioned, one of my interviews are there. The advantage of that is that the more connections and cross messages I have like that, my website will rise in the rankings, as will theirs. See, a lot of people are very stingy about putting other people's website links on their website. That's a bad idea. That they obviously don't understand marketing. The more website links you have on your page, the more prominent your page will be.
Okay.
It's not like I'm advertising for them. They happen to have my article there. That's why I'm doing the cross-linking. If my article disappears from their website, my links on my website will also disappear, right? I'm going to keep them as long as my article is visible on their website.
Okay.
You see, that is called cross-linking, search engine optimization. Very, very critical for any website. For anybody doing marketing, very important.
Okay.
You will see that my website, cybersecurityleadership.com, is probably on Google's first, second, or third page, usually. If you do like a search for cybersecurity leader or leadership or something like that, it will come up in the first 3 pages usually. Well, that's pretty amazing, because if you think about the multi-million websites that are out there on that particular topic, potentially, how is my website coming up so high?
Right.
Because of the cross-linking.
Okay.
And so one of the first pages that you want to cross-link to is probably mine, especially if I have anything related to you. Or you could, let's say, definition of cybersecurity. I don't know whose definition I'm using, but let's say you choose to use my definition. Well, you could put a link to that, you see? So these are all ways to have your site rise up.
Okay.
You had a picture with me, right? And I think that is something you should post somewhere. So
yes, I have a few pictures.
might actually see your website.
Okay. So I am in the process of, I'm working with someone, her name is Nia Joseph. Katia Dean referred me to her. And so I do keep in contact. I talk to Katia on a regular basis through LinkedIn. I do speak with Nia on a regular basis as well. So I set a timeline for my projects to start. So hopefully sometime in late summer, beginning of fall, you'll be seeing more of my work and marketing myself. Planning on starting a hand washing course for businesses. Since I was a nursing assistant instructor, the main skill that students had to learn in order to continue was hand washing. So now that this COVID-19 is being spread and they're talking about hand washing a lot, and people don't realize the importance of hand washing, I figure I could go there as an introduction, discuss hand washing, the importance of it, use creative ways on hand washing, and, you know, different types of songs you can sing. We could use invisible ink and black lights just to see if you got all the germs off your hands. So then I could follow up and say, oh, well, since you enjoyed the hand washing course, because they're going to enjoy the hand washing course. So I could discuss other issues that you may have. I will do an assessment if they have any issues with their cybersecurity and their cyber hygiene. Then I could diagnose, then I can plan and implement, and then evaluate afterwards. And once that consultation course is completed, then I will follow up maybe in a month or two. I will keep in contact just to see how they're doing. And then maybe in another 2-3 months, I'll come back and see if they had applied all the information, or most of it at least, to their workplace. I think it's important. You have to keep applying. You have, as repetition is good, and you have to keep talking about it. But like I said, sometime in August, September, I will be putting more and more out. It's just that my time right now is limited. I worked in New York for a couple weeks, and I worked in the COVID crisis, and then I moved to Oklahoma, so I'm still trying to get acclimated. So it's just been a lot going on in such a short amount of time. But I've just been thinking and say, this is what I'm going to do. Thank you.
So congratulations again on a lot of things going on. So this is absolutely wonderful. I'm going to close the recording because we are out of time. So thank you very much.
All right.
And